Have you ever wondered why some men effortlessly attract women, while others are left confused, ghosted, or friend-zoned? What if I told you that beneath every confident, self-assured woman, there are hidden emotional triggers she's not even aware of? And what if learning just 10 simple truths could flip the entire dynamic in your favor, without manipulation, pretending, or games? Today, we're breaking down something that most men never truly grasp: the psychological weaknesses that quietly shape female attraction. These aren't flaws or manipulative tricks. They're natural emotional patterns that influence how women connect, respond, and ultimately fall for certain types of men. You've probably seen it play out before. A woman who seems powerful, independent, and in total control, yet for some reason, there's a specific kind of man she just can't resist. It's not always the richest. It's not always the best looking. And it's definitely not the nice guy who bends over backwards for her. Why does this happen? Because attraction isn't just about surface-level traits like appearance or social status. At its core, attraction is about how a man makes her feel, what emotional buttons he pushes, often without even realizing it. The truth is, every woman, no matter how independent, how dominant, or how emotionally mature, has subconscious responses deeply wired into her. These responses dictate who she trusts, who she desires, and who she ignores. Some men naturally trigger those responses without trying. They walk into a room, say very little, and yet become the object of her fascination. Meanwhile, others try everything: gifts, compliments, attention, and still end up overlooked, used, or labeled as just a friend. But here's the good news. Once you understand these 10 key psychological vulnerabilities, everything changes. You stop guessing, you stop chasing, and instead, you start creating real emotional impact, without force, without acting, and without becoming someone you're not. So if you're ready to understand the patterns that separate the magnetic from the forgettable, let's begin. Coming up next, we'll dive into the first powerful shift that unlocks everything. Earlier, we explored how attraction isn't about status or looks. It's about the emotional response a man creates. Now let's go deeper into the psychological layers that shape that response and discover what really makes a woman feel captivated. Number 1. The craving for emotional escapism. While stability, appearance, and social standing may hold some initial appeal, they rarely ignite lasting desire on their own. What truly draws a woman in is the emotional experience a man brings into her world. Women don't just want a man, they want to feel something through him. Something electric, unpredictable, a sense of escape from the ordinary. This is why many women find themselves magnetized by men who are mysterious, intellectually stimulating, or emotionally challenging. Even relationships that seem unconventional or borderline forbidden can become irresistible. Why? Because it's not about the man himself. It's about how she feels when she's with him. And this is where most men fall short. In their effort to be liked or to come across as safe, they become overly predictable. They send the same types of messages, use familiar conversational patterns, and prioritize comfort over curiosity. They agree with everything she says, thinking it will build connection, but instead, it dissolves the spark. There's no tension, no intrigue, no contrast. A woman may respect a dependable man, but she rarely desires one who is too easy to read, too available, or too agreeable. Because predictability doesn't create desire, it dulls it. The secret lies in contrast. A man who can take her on a roller coaster of emotions, from curiosity to laughter, from light tension to playful challenge, will leave a far deeper mark on her than any man who simply plays it safe. And no, this doesn't mean being toxic or playing games. It means showing depth, spontaneity, and the courage to be real. Instead of constantly nodding along, challenge her thinking. Instead of surface-level small talk, share stories that paint vivid pictures and stir her imagination. Keep a sense of mystery, not by hiding who you are, but by revealing yourself gradually, layer by layer. Women don't crave chaos. They crave emotional aliveness. They long to be stirred, awakened, and transported into something that feels extraordinary. And the men who know how to bring that, those who offer a rich, emotional landscape, become unforgettable. Because when a woman begins to associate a man with emotional movement, she starts feeling something she can't explain or walk away from. And the next section, we'll explore another surprising emotional trigger that most men overlook, but once you recognize it, everything starts to click. In the last section, we uncovered how emotional depth, not predictability, creates lasting attraction. Now let's explore a second powerful driver of female desire that most men misinterpret: boundaries. Number 2, the unspoken addiction to strong boundaries. There's a magnetic pull women feel toward men who stand firmly in who they are. Men who don't waver for approval, don't compromise their values for attention, and don't reshape themselves just to be liked. While many men assume that being endlessly agreeable, overly accommodating, or always available will win her heart, the reality is quite the opposite. A man who constantly adjusts himself to avoid tension, who tiptoes around her moods, or who says yes to everything, even at the cost of his own peace, rarely earns long-term respect. He may be appreciated for his kindness, sure, but he won't be desired. Why? Because true attraction isn't built on comfort. It's built on contrast and respect. A woman subconsciously wants to know, can this man hold his own? Will he still stand tall if I push? Whether she realizes it or not, a woman will instinctively test a man not out of cruelty, but as a natural way to gauge his strength, stability, and emotional maturity. These tests can be subtle, canceling plans at the last minute to see if he'll chase, poking at his insecurities to see if he reacts, dominating conversations to check if he'll retreat. The moment a man starts reacting emotionally, overcompensating, with extra effort, or seeking reassurance to prove his worth, his value quietly diminishes in her eyes. It doesn't feel like leadership, it feels like instability. So what's the solution? It's not about being cold or indifferent, it's about holding your ground, saying no when you mean it, prioritizing your purpose, not her constant comfort, refusing to engage in games or drama. These are quiet but powerful signals that you have self-respect, and that no amount of pressure will shake your foundation. Women are drawn to men they cannot easily sway or manipulate. That strength makes them feel safe, intrigued, and ultimately respectful. And here's the beautiful twist. Once a woman realizes she cannot control a man, she stops testing and she starts admiring him. Previously, we explored how strong boundaries earn a woman's deep respect. And once she feels that strength, the dynamic begins to shift. But respect alone isn't enough. There's another emotional current that keeps her coming back, again and again: uncertainty. Number 3, the thrill of uncertainty. Attraction, at its core, thrives in the unknown. Think about why people binge-watch suspenseful TV shows, get lost in gripping novels, or sit frozen at the edge of their seat in a movie theater. It's not just the story, it's the anticipation, the tension, the thrill of not knowing what's coming next. In the same way, women experience attraction not through predictable routines, but through a sense of emotional suspense. When a relationship becomes too predictable, when every message, feeling, or action is expected, it quickly begins to lose its spark. The truth is, once a woman feels she's fully secured a man's attention without having to earn it, the emotional excitement fades. Many men, unknowingly, kill attraction by being too available. They respond instantly to every message, eliminating any room for curiosity. They overshare their feelings too early, dissolving any sense of mystery. They rearrange their entire schedule just to be with her, making the connection feel too easy, too certain, too unearned. But attraction isn't a transaction, it's emotional. And emotion is fueled not by certainty, but by tension. So, what's the solution? It's not about playing cold games or acting distant, it's about strategic space. Let moments of silence create anticipation. Give her the chance to wonder what you're thinking. Don't pour everything out at once. Let your story unfold gradually. Hold some mystery. Value your time. Make your presence something she earns, not something handed out on demand. Even something as simple as not replying right away can increase her emotional engagement because she begins to lean in. She becomes curious. She starts investing emotionally. When validation is given too easily, it loses its impact. But when it's earned, when it feels meaningful, it becomes something she deeply values. This kind of emotional dynamic doesn't create distance. It keeps the connection alive. Uncertainty, when used wisely, doesn't make you cold. It makes you magnetic. And that brings us to a powerful element that takes attraction from spark to fire, one that has nothing to do with mystery and everything to do with energy. 4. The magnetic pull of leadership. Women are instinctively drawn to men who carry themselves with direction. Leadership doesn't mean dominance or control, it means clarity and decisiveness. A man who knows who he is, where he's going, and what he wants instantly commands attention. Women don't fantasize about indecisive men who hesitate at every turn or constantly ask for reassurance. They're attracted to strength, confidence, and a man who can take the lead, whether in conversation, planning, or emotional tone. Think about it. In everyday situations, this shows up all the time. A woman respects a man who can confidently plan a date without fumbling through a dozen questions. Instead of nervously asking, "What do you want to do?" he simply says, "We're going here, I think you'll love it." She admires a man who expresses his opinions with conviction, rather than backtracking just to avoid disagreement. Indecision, even when polite, slowly erodes her sense of attraction. Taking the lead doesn't mean ignoring her thoughts or steamrolling her input. It means guiding the experience with presence, clarity, and confidence. It means being someone she can lean into, not someone she has to pull forward. Because when a man moves with intention, she doesn't just see it, she feels it. In the last section, we explored how leadership isn't about controlling a woman, it's about guiding the relationship with certainty and direction. Now let's move into a deeper truth, one that's often misunderstood, but critical to lasting attraction. A woman is most drawn to a man who doesn't need her. Number 5. The desire for a man who doesn't need her. Here's the paradox that many men struggle to grasp. Women do not want to be the center of your universe. Despite what romantic movies and pop culture suggest, constant attention, endless compliments, and undivided devotion don't actually build attraction. they slowly erode it. Why? Because when a man abandons his dreams, postpones his goals, dims his ambition just to center his life around a woman, something essential is lost: his edge, his drive, his sense of purpose. And without that purpose, his magnetism fades. Women aren't looking to be worshipped. They're not searching for someone who gives up everything for them. What they're truly drawn to is a man who is on a mission, a man with direction, ambition, and something bigger than the relationship itself. They want to walk beside a man who's going somewhere. That's why men who are fully immersed in their passions, whether they're building a business, mastering a craft, or pursuing a personal vision, tend to carry a natural confidence. That grounded energy, that silent assurance that he's already enough with or without her, is incredibly attractive. When a man lives like this, he doesn't need to constantly prove his worth. He becomes magnetic simply by staying committed to his path. On the flip side, when a woman senses that she is his entire world, that his identity and happiness rely solely on her attention, something shifts. What once felt intriguing begins to feel heavy. The emotional weight of being his only source of fulfillment can be overwhelming, even suffocating. To keep her interest alive, a man must stay connected to his personal mission. His time, his focus, and his energy should not be constantly redirected to accommodate her every whim. Instead, he honors his schedule. He protects his purpose. And in doing so, he creates mystery, challenge, and value. This doesn't mean neglecting her or being distant. It means never abandoning yourself, because the man who remains rooted in his growth, who never sacrifices his purpose to gain affection, remains endlessly attractive. Earlier, we uncovered a powerful truth. When a man stays rooted in his purpose, he becomes magnetic. But purpose alone isn't enough. There's another layer that elevates a man's presence in a woman's eyes: his selectiveness. Number 6. Women are drawn to men who are selective. There's something deeply attractive about a man who holds himself to high standards, not just in his goals or lifestyle, but in his relationships. A man who doesn't accept just anyone, who doesn't hand out his attention freely, carries an undeniable aura of value. He isn't desperate. He isn't chasing. And that restraint alone speaks volumes. Why? Because in a world where attention is cheap and validation is constantly thrown around, scarcity creates worth. A man who knows his own value naturally becomes more desirable. He doesn't need constant validation. He doesn't feel the urge to immediately impress. He moves with intention, and every bit of attention he gives feels earned, not given out of habit or insecurity. Unfortunately, many men do the opposite. They flood a woman with compliments from the very start. They try to prove their interest by being overly eager, texting too much, praising her appearance constantly, making themselves too available. On the surface, it looks like admiration, but underneath, it often signals neediness, and nothing drains attraction faster than desperation. When a man appears willing to chase any woman who gives him attention, his perceived value drops. If he seems too eager to please or too quick to flatter, it communicates insecurity rather than quiet confidence. The moment a woman senses this, her interest begins to fade. Real attraction isn't built on flattery. It's built on challenge. Selective man subtly invites a woman to rise to meet him. His standards encourage her to invest effort. And the more she invests, the more emotionally involved she becomes. He doesn't compliment just to win her over. He compliments when something genuinely impresses him. That makes every word he speaks feel rare, sincere, and impactful. By maintaining an air of mystery and not making himself instantly accessible, he creates a kind of unspoken competition. His time feels valuable. His attention feels earned. And because of that, his presence commands respect. A woman wants to feel that being chosen by this man means something, that he had options, and still chose her. When a man sets the bar high, he naturally attracts women who are willing to meet him there. He stops chasing approval and becomes the one who decides. That quiet confidence, the kind rooted in self-respect and high standards, is what keeps women intrigued, invested, and captivated. In the last section, we explored how women are deeply attracted to men who are selective, men who make their attention feel earned, not given away freely. But there's another layer of attraction that often defies logic. It's not about status, looks, or even charm. It's about emotional intensity. 7. Women are emotionally addicted to drama. This may sound surprising, but many women are drawn to emotional highs and lows, even when they say they want stability. On the surface, they may claim to seek a calm, dependable man. But in reality, many are subconsciously addicted to relationships that stir their emotions, keep them guessing, and bring a rush of feeling, whether joy, passion, or even temporary frustration. Think about it. This emotional roller coaster is why some women can't seem to let go of toxic relationships, or why breakups often lead to passionate, short-lived reunions. It's rarely just about the man, it's about the emotional experience he represents, the unpredictable highs, the longing caused by distance, the spark of reconnection. These emotional spikes become a kind of addiction. It's not the logic that keeps her hooked. It's the feeling. And here's the hard truth. Men who are too consistent, too predictable, and too emotionally available often struggle to hold a woman's long-term interest. While stability feels safe, it doesn't ignite desire. If a man agrees with everything she says, replies instantly every time, and never introduces any emotional contrast, the relationship begins to feel flat, even dull. Attraction thrives on emotional tension, not constant peace. Now, that doesn't mean being toxic or playing manipulative games. It means understanding the value of emotional variety. A man who can playfully tease her, who occasionally pulls back to create space, who isn't afraid to stand his ground or create contrast, brings that emotional spark that keeps her engaged. If she starts to take his presence for granted, a slight withdrawal, not in anger, but with calm assurance, can make her feel the absence. It reminds her of his value. That sense of contrast reignites her emotional investment. In essence, attraction isn't about chaos, it's about energy. It's about creating moments that stir her feelings, break the monotony, and remind her that this man isn't always within reach. And that's exactly why he's so captivating. Number 8. Women are intrigued by men who are hard to read. There's something undeniably magnetic about a man who isn't immediately understood. Women are naturally drawn to the unknown. When a man is too transparent, when he explains himself too much, wears all his emotions on his sleeve, and behaves in entirely predictable ways, he removes one of the strongest drivers of attraction: curiosity. If a woman can decode everything about a man within the first few interactions, something shifts. What once felt exciting starts to feel ordinary. The intrigue fades. And with it, so does the emotional spark. Many men make this mistake without even realizing it. In an effort to seem trustworthy, supportive, or emotionally available, they share Too much too soon. They lay out every plan, express every feeling, respond instantly to every message. They try to reassure her constantly, thinking openness will make her feel secure and connected. But in doing so, they remove the very tension that fuels interest. A woman doesn't want to see everything at once. She wants to unfold a man slowly, like chapters in a book she can't put down. A man who understands this doesn't rush to reveal every layer of his life. He lets her wonder. He lets her notice the details, ask the questions, and feel the thrill of slowly uncovering who he is. This isn't about being secretive or manipulative. It's about allowing space for discovery. He doesn't always respond immediately. He doesn't act the same way in every situation. Sometimes he challenges her thoughts. Other times he surprises her. His reactions aren't always predictable, and that makes him more captivating. His time and energy aren't always guaranteed, and that absence makes his presence more valuable. It's human nature. We treasure what isn't easily accessed, that women chase what they can't fully grasp. And the men who understand this, who let themselves be revealed slowly, layer by layer, create an emotional experience that lasts far longer than instant connection ever could. Number 9. Women are attracted to men who can walk away. One of the strongest displays of self-worth a man can show is the willingness to walk away from anything that disrespects, drains, or diminishes him. Women are instinctively drawn to men who know their value and who aren't afraid to remove themselves from situations that don't reflect it. Why? Because that quiet confidence speaks louder than words ever could. When a man is willing to leave if he's not treated well, without making a dramatic scene, without begging or arguing, he sends a clear and powerful message. I do not need your validation to feel complete. And that level of emotional independence doesn't make him less attractive, it makes him magnetic. On the other hand, men who fear losing a woman often give away their power without realizing it. They tolerate disrespect. They overlook broken promises. They excuse dismissive behavior, thinking that patience or kindness will win her back. But in reality, this only chips away at her respect for him. Women often, without even realizing it, test boundaries to see how much a man values himself. When he fails those tests by staying silent, by tolerating what he shouldn't, or by clinging to someone who doesn't prioritize him, the silent message he sends is, my standards are negotiable. And that's when attraction starts to fade. The solution, though simple, requires real inner strength. Always be willing to walk away. No matter how much he desires her, a man must have non-negotiables, clear standards that he upholds no matter how beautiful, charming, or emotionally intense the connection may be. If she disrespects him, flakes without accountability, or treats him as an option rather than a priority, the most powerful response isn't confrontation, it's space. Distance becomes dignity. And here's the paradox. When a woman senses that a man is not afraid to lose her, she often wants him more. Not because he's playing hard to get, but because scarcity creates value. A man who is not easily swayed, not easily replaced, and not emotionally dependent, becomes someone she instinctively wants to secure. Because she realizes he doesn't just give himself to anyone. 10. Women chase men who challenge them, contrary to what many believe. Women aren't deeply moved by men who make everything easy. Yes, kindness is appreciated, but true passion, the kind that lingers, comes from challenge. Not resistance for the sake of ego, but intellectual and emotional stimulation that keeps her thinking, feeling, and wanting more. When a man is too quick to agree, too eager to please, or too available with his affection, he might seem like a safe and secure choice at first. But over time, he begins to feel predictable. Comfortable, yes, but not exciting. Attraction doesn't grow in comfort alone. It thrives where there's effort, curiosity, and a sense that something valuable must be earned. A woman wants to feel that she's gaining something when she earns a man's attention and respect. That sense of accomplishment makes her emotionally invest. When affection is given too freely, too unconditionally, without any need for effort, it loses its value. And that's where many men unknowingly sabotage the dynamic. They try to be agreeable, to avoid conflict. They nod along even when they have a different opinion. They suppress their thoughts and withhold challenges, thinking this will keep her happy. But in doing so, they slowly fade into the background of her life. A woman can't feel magnetized by someone she never has to work for. The solution isn't to be argumentative or cold, it's to be dynamic. Hold your ground. Disagree when you truly believe something different. Introduce playful tension through teasing, witty banter, or by letting her earn your praise instead of giving it out instantly. Challenge her mind. Spark her curiosity. Let her wonder what you'll say next. That unpredictability creates excitement, and that excitement builds connection. Even more importantly, a man must have high standards, not just for women, but for himself. He shouldn't lower the bar just to keep a woman interested. Instead, he invites her to rise to the level he set for his life. And in the final segment, we'll tie everything together, how these 10 subtle emotional triggers, when embodied, fully transform the way women experience a man, and why that transformation is something no words alone can replicate. In the previous section, we talked about the power of high standards and how a man who challenges a woman intellectually and emotionally becomes unforgettable. But there's one more truth that ties it all together. Value is created when something must be earned. When a woman feels that she can't just walk into a man's life without effort, when she realizes she has to meet his expectations, not just emotionally, but mentally and energetically, she starts to see him differently. His approval becomes more meaningful. His time becomes more precious. And that's the foundation of emotional investment. When a man is selective with his energy, when he gives his attention to those who deserve it, not out of ego, but out of self-respect, it sends a powerful message. I am not available to just anyone. That mindset alone makes him a challenge. She wants to rise to a mystery. She wants to unravel. Mastering these 10 principles isn't about trickery or manipulation. It's about understanding human nature, leading with quiet strength, and reclaiming control over how you show up in relationships. Because at the end of the day, women aren't drawn to perfection. They're drawn to presence, to men who know who they are, who move with purpose, who don't chase validation, but create deep emotional experiences. When you stop living to impress and start living with intention, everything shifts. Suddenly, you're not chasing women. They're chasing you. Because real attraction was never about looks or wealth alone. It's about how you make her feel. The more you challenge her thinking, surprise her with depth, and stay grounded in your standards, the more she becomes emotionally invested. So ask yourself, have you seen these dynamics play out in your own life? Which of these 10 principles have you witnessed firsthand? Share your experience in the comments. I'd love to hear what resonated most with you. And if this video gave you a fresh perspective, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss future insights on attraction, psychology, and personal mastery. Stay focused, Stay disciplined. And never forget your life moves in the direction of your standards. Until next time.